Hi everyone, my name is Marianna Palumbo, and today I'm going to be discussing India's dual economy. I am a political science major with a minor in ASL, and I chose to discuss this topic because global inequality is unfortunately a highly relevant issue today. And when it comes to the disparity between the global north and global south, India is a really interesting case. And their economy just within their one country is really something interesting to talk about. So that's why I wanted to discuss that today. So before going any further in depth, I just wanted to discuss India at a glance. So starting with their population, and all of these statistics are coming from the World Bank. Their population is approximately 1.25 billion people, and according to the CIA, India is the second most populated country in the world. Moving on to GDP, it is approximately $2.074 trillion in 2015, and this is actually a 7.6% growth. This is important to note because India has the world's fourth largest economy, and we're going to be discussing this further in just a moment. And lastly, approximately 1/3 of their people are living in poverty, and this is around 400,000 people. This is also a key number to pay attention to. Although India has a large and rapidly growing economy, India is still a part of the global south, and there are definitely inequality issues here that have to be addressed. So when it comes to discussing the economy of India, one thing that we definitely have to touch on is their alliance with BRICS. So BRICS has become a term that means Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and this was a term that was first introduced by a Goldman Sachs global economist, Jim O'Neill, back in 2001. And since the term was first introduced, it was also has come to introduce South Africa as well. And basically, what this means is that all of these countries have the greatest economic growth potential of the 21st century. So, today we're specifically talking about India, so I just wanted to highlight some of their strengths. So, these would be manufacturing and services, information technology services, and call centers, and also their young population. So, in our globalized world, each of these strengths makes India a marketable place to global companies, specifically their offshoring and outsourcing capabilities. In terms of their young population specifically, according to India's census, nearly 48% of their population is under 21 years of age. So these young people are going to be able to continue to innovate for India for years to come. And this is going to be an opportunity for them to continue to grow and expand their economy. However, this is where the dual economy comes into play. So when I talk about dual economy, although India has one of the fastest growing economies, as I said earlier, approximately 1/3 of the population is living in poverty. So poverty is in rural areas as well as in slums. So as according to the World Bank, in 2011, the average annual per capita income was $1,410. This put India among the poorest of the world's middle income countries. So, when I talk about rural areas, obviously I'm talking about more like the countryside and where farming is the main source of income. And then slums, this is where an issue became people were trying to get to those jobs that had become accessible in the city, but once those jobs had been taken up, they stayed on the outskirts of the city. And one of the biggest slums in the world is actually in Mumbai, India, and it's really an unfortunate sight to see. So, some of the issues that exist with these impoverished people are poor transportation and infrastructure. So, 1/3 of people in rural areas do not have access to a road that can handle all weather conditions. In addition, the sea and airports are inadequate as well. Also, energy shortages. Around 300 million people in India aren't connected to the electrical grid. And then when it comes to hunger, around 17% of the population of India is malnourished. This is particularly prevalent in rural communities. This is where subsistence farming was taken over by commercial farming, and this is certainly a consequence of globalization. So, what are some solutions to India's dual economy situation? Well, personally, I think that improving infrastructure is one of the key issues that needs to be addressed. In the rural communities, I think that everyone should have access to the major cities. This is where the jobs are located, and this is going to require the transportation issues to be addressed. So, with the large young population, hopefully they can innovate some new technologies that are going to address this problem. In addition, maybe the Indian government can work with the BRICS alliance to develop a solution that can address poverty. BRICS initially was just a designation of the growing economic countries. However, they have formed somewhat of an alliance mirroring the Western dominated alliances. And much like India has used this alliance to establish a better political position, perhaps they can work together to formulate appropriate solutions to combat India's poverty. And finally, the World Bank has actually already started working with India to combat their economic issues, specifically the ones that deal with inequality within their own country. So, some of these that fall under the World Bank Group's partnership strategy for India, the goal of this, of course, being, quote, faster, sustainable, and more inclusive growth, end quote. Some of the recent plans that have been approved for additional financing, some of the recent plans that have been approved are additional financing for grids connected to the rooftop solar program, the HAR Transformative Development Project, and Tejusini Socioeconomic Empowerment of Adolescent Girls and Young Women, just to name a few. So, hopefully, with the establishment of these programs and working together with the World Bank, India can continue to work towards bridging this gap between their wealthy and their really impoverished people. And these are my references, and I hope that you learned just a little bit about the disparity here that exists in India. And even though they are having a great growth in their economy, they are still having a great number of people living in poverty, and this is something that needs to be addressed. Thank you.